Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, BetOnline has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and information on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get into the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use the promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
This is the Governor, Kane Womack, and you're listening to FunBelt Podcast.
This is the FunBelt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts the Dusty Thibodeaux of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Racer, and Shane Mettlen of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sun Belt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating. We kick off tonight's episode with major news.
I see what
you see what I did there, Jeremy?
Man, it was clever. It was real subtle. It wasn't.
Shane,
like
do you see how you
obvious.
write a catchy headline?
I do. I'm learning.
For those, by the time we release this, it's old news. But Major Applewhite looks to be the next leader of the South Alabama Jaguars, as Jeremy likes to say, with Kane Womack departing to become defensive coordinator at Alabama. Guys, I don't blame Kane for chasing the dollars. And let's be honest, if we look at the teams that Womack had in Mobile the past 2 years, and he wasn't able to win the belt, wasn't able to win the Sun Belt, and went 50-50 on bowl games, I don't know what else you could do, because those were some damn good teams that really way underperformed. I'd chase the bag of money too and head to Tuscaloosa.
You know, my observation on that, Dusty, is that some guys are meant to be head coaches and some guys are meant to be coordinators, and that's fine. To be a coordinator at this level, it's incredible. And I think Kane Womack was a great defensive coordinator. In fact, I thought that South Alabama defense that was on the field this year was one of the fastest defenses I had ever seen. And I had seen some pretty good defenses this year play against Arkansas State. So I just think he's a great and gifted DC. And to see him go to Alabama, fine. And to be a DC, I think that's sort of in his wheelhouse. Go with our blessings. That's what I say.
Goodbye, Governor. R.I.P.
Yeah, I think ADs, especially at the G5 level, are going to have to start kind of reconsidering how they interview people. And you get the cliche question in an interview, like where you think you're going to be in 5 years. Like, you're trying to figure out if these guys really want to be head coaches or if they want to be making $2 million in 5 years, because there's more than one way to get to the point where you're making that kind of money, and you can be a coordinator in the Big Ten or SEC and get there. But there are other guys, like somebody asked me about this the other day. Curt Cignetti took the opposite path. He was an assistant at Alabama and took a pay cut because he really wanted to be a head coach. And those are the guys that now these G5 programs are going to have to find. It's not the end of the world that somebody's leaving, but I think you just got to kind of reconsider who you're going after to be your head coach now.
Yeah, and I think some of that, Shane, was, oh my God, here comes Power 5 programs, and they're not just poaching players now. Now they're poaching head coaches and giving them the inglorious position as coordinators. But as I think our friends at Group of Five guys said, this is Alabama. This is a program that if there is a Power 5, they are the Power 1. They're by themselves when it comes to being a top tier program. So all right, it's a little different than if Kane Womack had, I don't know, signed to become a DC at Indiana, for instance. It would have been different. It would have been a different vibe.
I think he got out also when the getting was good. I think that this is going to be a rebuilding year, regardless who the head coach at South Alabama is at. or at South Alabama. I can't even speak. I'm just speechless from losing the governor. But Shane, I mean, do you feel that that's also maybe something that plays into it, that he bails out knowing that, hey, we just kind of had our two best years ever, and it's going to be a little bit of a slip coming up this year and maybe even next year?
Yeah, I think it's possible. And I think there's probably, there's stresses on being a head coach that we don't even realize. And, maybe especially when you go into the season thinking Sun Belt championship, and it turns out, you're kind of squeaking into a bowl game, and we don't know exactly why South Alabama underperformed, at least by our estimations, a little bit. But, like I said before, there are guys who desperately want to be a head coach and will take a few $100,000 less to be a head coach. And those are the guys you want right now if you're a G5 program. And, other guys maybe even get that opportunity and realize it's not all it's cracked up to be, because there's a lot of stress that goes into being the head coach of a college football program.
How great is it, though, that Major Applewhite, who was the candidate, it seems like, for every head coaching opening ever made in college football, even I think when he was starting at Texas, he was still a candidate as a head coach at different colleges. He finally gets a shot.
Yeah. And I mean, not might sound like a knock on Kane Womack, but maybe this ends up being like a blessing in disguise, because you're getting a guy who you really only have as an offensive coordinator because he had a little bit of a scandal in his past that seems pretty tame compared to a lot of other things that have happened in college football in the years since. But that kind of took him off that head coaching track to the point where he kind of had to work his way back up. And now he's going to get that chance as a head coach. And he's still the same guy that everybody thought was going to be a head coach when he was 30 or 25 or whatever it was. And he was really, really young at Texas and everything. And, maybe it ends up working out pretty well for South Alabama, but they're able to promote a guy like that.
I think one of the key things that really dictates how his tenure is going to go leading the Jags, Gio Lopez, the presumed starter for this upcoming year, gave his blessing, was doing the happy dance and everything else on the X, saying that, Applewhite is the guy that they're all happy with, at least from a player perspective. So if the players like him, you got to figure he's a player's coach, and that they're going to see a little bit of extra effort out of the players and really going above and beyond to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, because I think it was off air when we were kind of talking about how, Alabama is in a tough spot because they're losing all their guys basically after the portal's closed. South Alabama is even, a few days behind that. And, we'll see what they can do to keep their roster together. But keeping the roster together is going to be really important, because it's not like there's going to be a bunch of guys entering the portal here in the next few days for South Alabama to kind of rebuild things. So that makes this move make a lot of sense too, in that you're just kind of trying to keep things together at this point, compared to teams a month ago who were making the coaching change and maybe could think a little bit more long-term.
The other big news that really broke since our last episode, Texas State. We kind of said, hey, with Maldy, TJ Finley coming back, that these guys are going to be legit and contenders for the Sun Belt West. No sooner had those words left us, the Bobcats went boobcatting. TJ Finley hits the portal. They did sign Arizona transfer Jaden DeLora, though, but he may not even see campus, knowing that he has some off-the-field legal issues. What's going on in San Marcos there, Shane?
I don't know. I was a little bit surprised to see that the order of things was backwards of how I kind of figured it. I was like, why is DeLora, signing up to be, a backup? Or did they know that TJ Finley was leaving? But it sounds like Finley was taken completely by surprise by them bringing in another quarterback, which to me kind of seems to be like one of the first missteps for GJ Kinney, as far as like how he's handled the transition to move into Texas State. And, all the guys he brought in through the portal last year had so much success recruiting. Seems to be maybe one of the first missteps in that direction, at least as far as how he handled TJ Finley, because you were solid, you were set at quarterback. Now you have some question marks. Maybe it ends up working out. Delora, maybe gets all his off the field stuff worked out. He goes to San Marcos and he's a star, and nobody even remembers that they lost TJ Finley. But right now, I just don't quite understand the way that was handled there.
Yeah, me either. And it's really, like I said, they went from being, Texas State's going to win the West next year to middle of the pack right now until we kind of know what they look like exiting spring ball with who's even behind center, what's Maldi look like with that new relationship of a new quarterback. There were some questions on the offensive line, but you figured a mobile quarterback like Finley was really going to make up for it. A lot of question marks now in San Marcos, more than answers that we have.
Yeah. A little bit surprising after, the big bump, the big boost from last offseason. But, like we said, we're making guesses to some degree here. It might end up working out perfectly for them, but it leaves a lot of question marks when a week ago we thought they didn't have any question marks at the quarterback position.
More big news over the week. College football overall. EA Sports says the July date that was released is not the date for the game. It could be, but it is not officially the date of the release of the game. Shane, are you chomping at the bit as much as me?
I am, to some degree. I honestly was kind of off video games for a long time. My kids end up getting a Switch, so I asked for like NBA 2K24 for Christmas. So I'm back playing sports games like I was when I was in my 20s, and so I'm looking forward to this now. It should be fun. It's cool. It's cool. The players are going to get their piece of the pie. So, I'm looking forward to it, and I think it probably still will end up being a summer release, but we'll see what the exact date ends up being.
It traditionally was. It seems like in the past it came out right around the 4th of July or so. Dating myself of waiting for the midnight release at GameStop to get to play it in store first. Those are the memories we always have. We won't have that because it'll just be like, hey, Shane, sorry, my internet's a little crappy tonight while we record because I'm downloading NCAA.
Yeah, but it's fun. And it'll be, like you said, that July area to release it makes a lot of sense. People are starting to think about football season, get into football season, and then you're playing the game as the season begins. And you can kind of, that's when people are really getting back into college football. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not somewhere around that date that got leaked or whatever, but I don't know if they've officially said it from now. And that's kind of, basing that off whatever friend Matt Brown has to say, because he's as on top of that as anybody.
And then some. We have several great offensive prospects headed to Mobile for the Senior Bowl, but we got to have one of the best defensive prospects ever there in Jalen Green. What have you heard about his draft status as he tries to push on to get to that next level?
I think as far as getting drafted this year, we're going to have to see how his health's doing. He's recovering from that. He's also he was attracting attention from pro scouts, but he's also a little bit undersized for an NFL edge. I don't know if that's the position he's still going to pursue at the next level, but you can't argue with the numbers. You can't argue with the results. You can't argue with the way that he's built himself up from a solid player to an outstanding player. So hopefully he recovers from the injury, gets a chance to do some workouts and pro days, and maybe, I don't think he's probably going to play any all-star games, but we'll see what he's able to do. I think he's going to be a pro eventually. How long that takes him to recover from the injury is probably the biggest question.
I do think that, if I just had a guess, that I think last year we had a record amount of NFL guys get in the draft. And partly was because we had the new members. But if I recall, it was also one of the worst drafts ever for the group of five. And I think that's one thing that I'll be paying attention most in terms of the NFL draft this year, is if last year was sort of an anomaly. I don't think a G5 was called until like the 4th or 5th round, which is something I hadn't seen in a very long time. So that will be what I pay attention to.
We're ready to shift gears to basketball.
I'm watching basketball right now. I'm watching Southern Miss. They've got a little bit of a lead over my Arkansas State Red Wolves, so I'll be checking that out.
What's more surprising, and I say this honestly, Troy at 5-0, or either one of the 0-5 teams, ULM or Old Dominion?
You know what? I am a little surprised about Troy because I felt like Troy came out pretty flat to open the season. Didn't seem like they were showing much promise. You know, the biggest mistake is ever doubting Scott Cross, because Scott Cross is just a damn good basketball coach. Has been every stop he's been to. So why should I doubt him now? But I was a little surprised. You know, if somebody had said, "Hey, who's going to be 5-0?" I would have said, "I don't know, JMU." They're not, but a little surprised.
Yeah, and not to take anything away from Troy, I'm a little surprised too.
Yeah,
but then you go look at it. They've already had that 4-game homestand that everybody seems to get, and you know they're 10-1 at home this year. They're going to have to hit the road now, so we'll see what happens if they can keep it going. But you know, Troy's tough to beat at home. Like I was just looking at standings and everything else, and when I saw their overall record and then it broke down their home record, they're 10-1 at home this year. They've played a lot of home games and 4 of them in conference. So I think that has a little bit to do with their start.
So Shane's kind of predicting once the Trojans hit the road, there's going to be a little bit of come to Jesus.
I think by the time we get halfway through the conference slate, we'll have a better idea who the real contenders are.
Ooh. As far as the 0-5 guys, Dusty, you know, Old Dominion is traditionally, you know, a basketball powerhouse, and to see them start 0-5 is a little strange. I imagine they'll pick it up, but they seem really small. I think we talked about it last time. They don't seem like they have enough, you know, big people in their lineup. So I don't know. As far as ULM, Dusty, those guys, they let me down every year, so I'm not surprised at all.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
I mean, look, here's the consistent things. As long as we keep feeding Scott Cross Whataburger, he's going to be a hell of a coach. As long as ULM keeps the status quo, we're going to keep seeing them towards the bottom of the standings. But I think changes are coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And for ODU, we'll see what ends up happening. It's been a hell of a season for them. I mean, like we said, they've kicked guys off the team. They have no size at this point. Jeff Jones, let's hope that he gets good news. He's got his pancreatic cancer back. It's been a tough season. He's done for the rest of the year. And like, I would think that his future, as far as being a head coach, is got to be somewhat in doubt based on his health and the results. ODU is a really good mid-major college basketball job. They should not be where they are right now. There's some tough luck involved, but you talk about changes at ULM. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some major changes at ODU at some point in the near future.
Is this a scoop, Shane? Is this an
No.
old-fashioned newspaper man scoop?
No, I mean, this is you know,
okay,
speculation based on just knowing that the expectations are higher than they are. Jeff Jones I feel like his health has been an issue for years, and it's only getting worse. ODU in the past has made room for guys that have been successful coaches in their administration. They can find him a cushy job, I think, and perhaps move on in the coaching realm, because I can't see ODU kind of continuing down this path that has not been working for a few years now.
So speaking of some other teams, guys, I had the chance to check out the Cajuns a couple nights ago, and I'm a little surprised that they're not doing a little bit better than their record shows. Their net is, I think they're third in net, which, you know, take that for what it is. But when they came to Jonesboro, I watched the game, and they've got a big in there, a guy named Katinge. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Just a big brick, 6'8", 280 pounds, right there in the middle of the paint. Just impossible to get around. That guy, I think, is going to be one of the better players in the league. I feel like Louisiana might become, you know, that team that sort of if Troy is projected to be on the decline with this road trip coming up, I feel like maybe the Cajuns might be a team that might be on the rise.
I think the sneaky team right now in the Sun Belt, Georgia State, 4-1 right now in conference. The only loss was on the road at Southern Miss, but they've been able to win at South Alabama. The beating there of ODU, as we've said, and then more importantly, they beat Georgia Southern. So able to take care of business. Saw they were down by about 9.5 to App State to kick off this week's games. So,
well, they have since lost that game.
Yeah, App State finished that one out. So second loss for Georgia State, but they are still right there in the mix, as you said.
Well, by the way, you saw Appalachian State in action, right? Right, Shane?
Yeah, I did.
I haven't seen them in action yet. Is this a good team?
It's a good team. It's I wrote something here this week about how you look at JMU, you look at App State, they're way above everybody else in the net. They've got the marquee non-conference wins, and then you look at their rosters. They're the two schools that kept guys in their program for 3 or 4 years, and guys who are now starters. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And, some of those guys at App State are not necessarily superstars, but when you keep good players around long enough, you're going to end up with a good team. And they've got 11 of their 12 guys signed with App State out of high school.
Shane, I'm going to caution you because you're dancing on the language that you said last year that got you in so much trouble with Appalachian State. I just don't want you to get hurt again. Okay. I just don't want that violent mob to be after you again.
I thought what I said was really nice, but
but yeah, Appalachian State. We talked about home court advantage, and Boone is almost impossible to win a game at. But now they're winning games on the road too. I don't know how he does it. Is it Kearns? Is it Dustin Kearns? Is this the guy? Is it all Kearns magic?
as he said at his press conference to open it up, how about the Mountaineers?
He said that?
It's Dustin Kearns.
Wow, I'm glad you brought that to the table, Dusty, because that cleared up a lot.
You know what else about App State is interesting is they block a ton of shots. I don't know if there's a number one team in the country in block shots, but they're up there, and it affects teams. I wonder if we'll see adjustments second time through the rotation with these Eastern teams when they play them the second time. But it made a big difference against JMU. But just going by Twitter reactions, it seemed like it was making a big difference in the Georgia State game tonight, maybe last night by the time people listen to this. But they change shots at the rim, and that's got a big effect on their defense. And I think a lot of teams are going to have to change the way they attack App State on the offensive end the second time they play them.
And on that note, we talk about the MAC Sunbelt Challenge coming up for the men's and women's basketball.
Is that coming
Continuing to look at the standings. It's about a month away.
Okay.
Akron Toledo remain undefeated, 5-0. What was that, Shane?
We're going to get the matchup set, I think, next week.
Okay.
So
there we go.
This is very relevant.
Akron Toledo, 5-0. Bowling Green, Western Michigan, 4-1. 3-2, Central Michigan, 2-3. Kent State, Miami, Ohio, Ball State, Eastern Michigan, Buffalo, 1-4. Northern Illinois, right on par with us, 0-5. On the women's side, they actually have 3 undefeated teams: Ball State, Toledo, Kent State. Ball State with 5-0. Toledo, Kent State 4-0. Only one winless team, Western Michigan, 0-4.
Ooh. Huh.
So that means they would be hosting South Alabama at this point.
You know what I really want to know?
Tell me what you want to know, what you really, really, really want to know.
What'd you guys say about TJ Finley?
You'll have to listen.
I mean, that was a real brouhaha. I mean,
Shane, we got one listener this week. That's guaranteed.
I mean, those guys at Texas State, man, they were riding high. I mean, they were just kind of full of themselves. We got two of the greatest quarterbacks in the league. What are we going to do? We're going to win the West. No, not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. But you guys already talked about it, so I'm not going to rehash it. I'm not going to be selfish and make you guys go back. You guys already did the job. I bailed on you. You guys did the job. You guys did not leave your post. I abandoned my post, and I'm going to pay the consequences for that.
I can understand if I had a burst pipe, I wouldn't even be back right now.
Yeah, I'd be done.
Yeah.
I might have to take a shower at one of you guys' places. Do you mind if I fill up?
It's fine
Come
with me.
on down.
All right.
Jump on your bike, on your Huffy.
I'll be right there.
And on that note, unless there's something else that you have, Jeremy, Shane,
No.
it's time for plugs, promos, and parting shots. Jeremy, the man of the hour, please tell us.
All right. Okay. We talked a little bit about Kane Womack taking off for Alabama, right? He's going to be the new DC there. That's great. Good for him. I'm glad he's found his new home. They're hiring the offensive coordinator, Major Applewhite. Hopefully he'll have, some success there. His players really seem to respect him. I think there was some locker room support for that move. But one of the things that has come now that Nick Nolte, I almost called him Nick Nolte, with Nick Saban leaving Alabama, we've seen something that we have never really seen before, and that's star players transferring out of Alabama. And with that has come the chagrin and dismay and the gnashing of teeth of the Crimson Tide fan base. Oh, how could you go for the money? Oh, my God, we're Crimson Tide. NIL is ruining everything. We've got to clamp down on the portal. How dare these kids betray us? And so I'm like, finally, you get to feel what every Group of 5 program feels at this time every year now, is watching our star players walk off and go someplace else. And maybe the good part of this is that maybe we'll get some sane regulation of portal transferring, of NIL, now that mighty Alabama has to face this, has to endure this humiliation as well. And that is my parting shot.
My parting shot.
Okay.
News of the weird, of course.
Ooh.
A man, 32, has claimed that women in a private Facebook group have been posting about their dates with him. And it has harmed his reputation to the tune of $75 million after the women said that he was clingy and creepy.
Ooh.
I'm so glad there was no social media back around when
Holy shit.
we were in the dating pool.
Yeah. I mean, if he's got multiple women that he's been on dates with to talk about him, like, he's not doing too bad, is he?
Yeah, he's got some success.
Yeah. I mean, if there's enough to have a Facebook group.
Dating is like a baseball average. I mean, if you strike out 7 times, but you make 3 hits, you're batting 300. That's pretty good. I will tell you this. Do you ever look back on a date that you had and it didn't go out well, and like 10 years, 20 years later, you look back and go, I bet that's why it didn't work out. Have you ever had that happen to you?
Not 10 or 20 years later, more like 10 or 20 minutes later.
Here's the biggest mistake I made. So I took this girl I was sweet on a date in high school, and we went to a movie. I can't remember what the movie. And I said, after the movie, I said, are you hungry? And she goes, yeah, I'm a little hungry. I said, okay. And I took her to McDonald's. And we went to McDonald's, and she ordered whatever she ordered, probably already irritated enough that she was at McDonald's. I ordered the McFish, guys. I ate a McDonald's McFish. Ate it all down, tartar sauce and all. And then, I dropped her off at her house. We shared like a little kiss, like a first date kiss. And then it was like over. She was done with me. Like, she totally dumped me, like, for a friend of mine. And I couldn't figure it out. It took me like 10 years. before I finally like, wait a second, what did I eat? Holy shit, a McFish at McDonald's? What the hell was I thinking?
You're up, Shane.
All right, I'm going to go back a little bit towards what Jeremy was talking about.
Oh, okay.
You know,
with McFish. You're not talking about the McFish?
the coaches leaving, and everybody kind of like, everybody's kind of got to deal with it now, even Alabama. One thing I've noticed here in the past few days, as I spend way too much time on Twitter and on my phone and everything else, is this new that the NFL teams will put out a tweet saying we interviewed such and such guy for our head coaching position? I don't remember seeing that much in the past. I love it. I think it should be required at the college level. Ooh. And then maybe the coaching carousel things wouldn't be quite so crazy, because who wants it to get out that, like, you have to tweet that you interviewed for the Washington job, or
how insanely angry people would be if, like, you were required to report if you interviewed coaches and your program hadn't interviewed a coach in like more than a week.
There's that, but how insanely angry would you be if you interviewed for a job, didn't get it, and went back? So maybe the coaches would stay put for a little bit longer. Yeah. And maybe that would cut down on a lot of the craziness we've been experiencing at college level. Never going to happen, but I kind of like the idea of, like, let's bring that NFL idea to the college level.
Do coaches have that shame, though? Wouldn't they just say, you parlay that into, oh, yeah, I'm looking. You might want to bump up the old salary. I mean, isn't that how that works?
Maybe, but then you come back with your tail between your legs and have to deal with the fans who are like, yeah, you got one foot out the door, like, already. Like,
Toledo didn't even want you.
You're not going to interview for a job unless you think you're going to get
it. Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good idea. Dusty, you want to weigh in on that? Because you're kind of smirking over there.
I mean, it's a business, guys. I mean, when you're interviewing for a job, Shane, if you were interviewing for the New York Post, would you want the Daily News Record to know that you were interviewing for the New York Post?
Oh, if I'm interviewing for a paper that big, I'm going to be bragging about it.
That's right. You kind of want but if you're doing it for the Paducah, Paducah sports section or whatever, then you're probably like,
and then when you can't get the job at the Paducah News, are you going back going, hey guys, you'll never believe these guys didn't want me. You should be lucky to have me.
So it's
and
like,
on that note, we wrap it up so Jeremy can go wrap it up.
Yeah, I got to wrap up the old pipe.
That doesn't sound good. We're no longer family friendly.
Wrapping up the old pipe, if you know what I'm saying.